Mangwanani mwalelepo vuke njani xexwa vana Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening in the SADC region and beyond. Today is Monday, the 13th of September, and as usual, you're joined by Ashwin Berry and Aina Raiza Kweo.
Today is also Positive Thinking Day. This is a time set aside each year to concentrate on all things that are positive. An American entrepreneur started this day in 2003 so that people could commemorate the many rewards that can be found in thinking positively. I'm so
Yes.
It's a must.
If you focus on good things
Things
will
come to you.
Yes,
all right.
absolutely. And if you're a person who has particular things that make you feel positive, make sure you share it in our comment section. We like to make sure we interact with you guys. We're big on staying positive no matter how the day goes. But check out a video on Positive Thinking Day.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. In our top stories this morning, African Union suspends Guinea after military coup. The African Union said on Friday that it was suspending Guinea's membership in the bloc after a military junta overthrew the government. The bloc said on Twitter that the country was suspended from all AU activities and decision-making bodies. Guinea was one of AU's founding members. The AU aims to achieve greater political integration on the continent and promote human rights. The ruling junta, led by Colonel Madi Damboa, took control of the West African country on Sunday and arrested President Alpha Condé. Junta leaders have accused Condé of being corrupt. Guinea's military leader have suspended the constitution and closed the country's borders. In addition, they have frozen the government's bank account to seize the state's assets.
Staying with Guinea, regional envoys meet Guinea junta ousted president after coup. A delegation from West Africa's main political and economic bloc on Friday met Guinea's ousted president Alpha Condé and members of the junta that overthrew him, hoping to steer the country back towards a civilian-led constitutional regime. We met the members of the CNRD. We also met the former head of state Jean-Claude Bro. The president of the Economic Community of West African States Commission told reporters in the capital, Conakry. They planned to press the junta to appoint a credible civilian prime minister as soon as possible to help guide Guinea back towards constitutional order, a high-ranking regional official told Reuters on Thursday. The junta is led by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, a former officer in the French Foreign Legion. Doumbouya and the other special forces soldiers behind Sunday's coup said they had ousted Condé because of concerns about poverty and endemic corruption.
U.S. urges immediate talks over Ethiopia conflict as reported abuse grows. The United States is gravely concerned about fighting in parts of Ethiopia. The U.S. State Department said on Friday, urging the Ethiopian government and rebellious forces from the Tigray region to start immediate negotiations to address the conflict. Reports of continued human rights abuses and atrocities by parties to the conflict are deeply disturbing, including the reported attack on civilians in a village in the Amhara region this week. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said. Rebellious forces from the Tigray region killed 120 civilians over 2 days in a village in Ethiopia's Amhara region, local officials told Reuters on Wednesday. The Tigrayan forces later issued a statement rejecting what they called a fabricated allegation by the Amhara region government and denying any involvement in the killing of civilians. There was no immediate comment from the office of Ethiopia's prime minister.
Send vaccines to Africa and ditch unproven third shot, AU says. Rich nations would do better to send vaccines to Africa to help fight the global COVID-19 pandemic rather than hoarding them for the third dose booster shots that scientific evidence does not back, the African Union's top health official said on Thursday. Africa's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director John Kengasong told a news conference he was baffled some rich countries were disregarding World Health Organization advice to hold off from booster shots until more people were fully vaccinated worldwide. Wealthy countries such as Germany, France, and Israel are planning to administer third shots. The COVAX program urged rich countries that had met their domestic needs to forfeit volumes rather than administer third shots. Currently, only 3% of the African continent were vaccinated, he said, while 145.4 million vaccine doses had been procured across the continent, of which 3/4 had been administered. In the meantime, the coronavirus continued to evolve. Africa has recorded 7.9 million cases, of which 201,000 have been fatal, he said.
Tunisia's president rebuffs foreign pressure over political crisis. Tunisia's President Kais Saied on Friday said the country would not tolerate any foreign interference as he faces rising pressure from the Western governments to restore constitutional order after seizing power in July. The sovereignty of the Tunisian state and the choices of its people were not discussed with international partners and will not be the subject of negotiations with any party, the president said in a statement. Visiting Tunis on Friday, EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said he convoyed European concerns about perceiving democratic gains in Tunisia to Saidad. Ambassador from the group of 7 major economies this week also urged Saidad to appoint a new head of government as a matter of urgency and return to a constitutional order in which an elected parliament plays a significant role. More than 6 weeks after Saidad's move, he has still not appointed any new government or made any broader declaration of his long-term intention. Saidad's intervention has thrust Tunisia into a constitutional crisis, raising concerns over the future of the democratic system.
In our next story, Angola opposition protest against vote law changes. Hundreds of opposition supporters have held a march in the Angolan capital to protest changes to the electoral laws. Under the new legislation, votes will be tallied centrally instead of being counted in the regions. Critics say this will reduce transparency. The demonstration was organized by the main opposition UNITA party and joined by other groups. UNITA has suggested the introduction of measures to counter electoral fraud, including biometric voter identification and the involvement of civil society in ballot counting. President João Lourenço is expected to run for a second term in next year's poll.
Africa is faced with drought. AFDB, NDF, and Copenhagen commits to water. Climate change is causing major upheavals around the world, resulting in sometimes irreversible damages to the environment. In Africa, several countries have severely affected this worsening phenomenon. One of the main consequences of climate change is water stress, which is worsening in countries with arid and semi-arid climates. Faced with the scale of the phenomenon, resilience projects are being launched across the continent, the most recent of which is being supported by the African Development Bank. Unveiled on the 8th of September 2021, it aims to improve water and sanitation services in 5 African countries, which include Burkina Faso, Mali, Ethiopia, Niger, and Sudan. The Pan-African Bank is implementing the initiative in partnership with the Nordic Development Fund and the government of Denmark. The initiatives involves rehabilitating and expanding the capacity of water supply systems in the countries concerned to make them more resilient to the effects of climate change.
Ivory Coast military helicopter crashes, killing 5 on board. A military helicopter crashed in northern Ivory Coast while on a reconnaissance mission near the border with Burkina Faso, killing all 5 crew members, the Defense Ministry said on Friday. An investigation has been opened to determine the cause of the crash, the ministry said in a statement. Ivory Coast's borderlands with Burkina Faso have emerged as hotspots of insecurity in the past year, following several attacks by Islamist militants believed to be linked to Al-Qaeda.
Essay to introduce digital vaccine certificates as early as next week. Health Minister Joe Fatla says South Africans who are vaccinated against COVID-19 will probably be issued with a digital vaccination certificate in about a week's time. Fatla said on Friday the certificates would be available through a person's smartphone and they can also be printed out. He said the digital vaccination certificates had been deployed with fraud protection and other security measures and would be aligned with international standards. Fatla said the certificates would probably be used for certain services in the future, but the government had no intention of making the certificate a requirement of accessing public services. According to WHO, the digital COVID-19 certificates were proposed as a mechanism by which a person's COVID-19 related health data could be digitally documented via an electronic certificate.
Mugabe's remains should be reburied at Harare Monument, Zimbabwe magistrate rules. A Zimbabwean magistrate on Friday ruled that Robert Mugabe's remains should be exhumed and reburied at the National Heroes Shrine in the capital city, rekindling a row over the late former leader's resting place. In May, a traditional chief from Mugabe's rural Zimba area ordered that his remains be interred at the shrine in Harare, where the ruling elite and former fighters in Zimbabwe's 1970s independence war are buried. Mugabe's 3 children had appealed the decision at the magistrate court in Chinoyi town, 115 kilometers west of Harare. Mugabe's relatives oppose his reburial at National Heroes Acre, saying the man who ruled Zimbabwe for 37 years until he was ousted in an army coup had expressed fears before his death that some of those who overthrew him would seek to conduct a traditional ritual with some of his body parts. Chiefs in Zimbabwe have jurisdiction over their local subjects, but it is rare for them to order families to exhume bodies for reburial.
South Africa vaccinates children in test for China's Sinovac jab. South Africa has started vaccinating children and adolescents as part of the global Phase 3 clinical trials of China's Sinovac biotech COVID-19 vaccines for people aged between 6 months and 17-year-old. The global study will enroll 2,000 participants in South Africa and 12,000 others will be taking part will come from Kenya, the Philippines, Chile, and Malaysia. The first children in South Africa were inoculated on Friday at the Sefako Maktato Health Science University in the capital Pretoria to kick off the trials, and others will get shots at 6 different sites across the country, Sinovac said in a statement. Glenda Gray, president of South African Medical Research Council, said during Friday's event that delaying the inoculation of children in the COVID-19 vaccine trials delays our ability to contain COVID-19. South Africa's account for more than 35% of COVID-19 infections in Africa, with 2.8 million confirmed cases, including over 84,000 deaths. It has been battling a resurgence driven by the Delta variant of coronavirus, recording 6,270 new infections and 175 deaths in the past 24 hours.
Now, in the last of our top stories, funding NGOs to improve great ape protection. The World Congress of the Union for Conservation of Nature, which takes place from, which takes place from 3 to 11 September 2021 in Marseille, France, recognizes the work of African great ape conservation groups. In one of the motions of support formulated at this meeting, IUCN France asks donors to provide financial assistance to these associations because of the fieldwork they carry out. At the previous World Conservation Congress held in September 2016 in Honolulu, the Hawaiian capital, the IUCN classified 4 out of 6 great ape species as critically endangered. These are the eastern gorilla, western gorilla, Bornean orangutan, and Sumatran orangutan. The eastern gorilla has suffered a catastrophic decline. Its population has been reduced by more than 70% in 20 years. It is currently estimated at less than 5,000 individuals. All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories. We have so much more news for you right after the break.
Medical masks should be worn by health workers and those caring for someone with COVID-19 symptoms, persons aged 60 and over, and anyone with pre-existing medical conditions, as they are at greater risk of developing serious illness, and people who have symptoms suggestive of COVID-19. Before touching the mask, clean your hands with alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Inspect the mask for tears or holes. Do not use a mask that has previously been worn or is damaged. Verify which side is the top. This is usually where the metal strip is. Identify the inside of the mask, which is usually the white side. Place the mask on your face, covering your nose, mouth, and chin, making sure there are no gaps between your face and the mask. Pinch the metal strip so that it molds to the shape of your nose. Remember, do not touch the front of the mask while using it to avoid contamination. If you accidentally touch it, clean your hands. Now, how do you take off a medical mask? Before touching the mask, once again, ensure that you clean your hands with alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Remove the straps from behind the head or ears without touching the front of the mask. As you remove the mask, lean forward and pull the mask away from your face. Medical masks are for single use only. Discard the mask immediately, preferably into a closed bin. Clean your hands after touching the mask. Always be aware of the condition of the mask. Replace it if it gets soiled or damp. A mask alone cannot protect you from COVID-19. It must be combined with other measures, including maintaining at least 1 meter distance from each other, washing your hands frequently, and avoid touching your eyes, mouth, and nose while wearing a mask. Stay safe and help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Cape Cross is one of the most historic places along the Namibian coast. Today, it is a protected area owned by the government of Namibia under the name Cape Cross Seal Reserve. The reserve is the home of one of the largest colonies of Cape fur seals in the world. Nadine Downing, a Namibian artist, manages the self-sufficient lodge at Cape Cross. In this interview with Tanya Balze, she talks about the history surrounding the area, its animals, and fishing. Have a look.
Cape Cross is one of the most historic places along the Namibian coast. It is situated on the world-renowned Skeleton Coast, some 60 kilometers north of Hentish Bay. The Portuguese navigator and explorer Diego Cao was in 1484 ordered by King João II as part of the search for a sea route to India and the Spice Islands to advance south into undiscovered regions along the west coast of Africa. While doing so, he was to choose some particularly salient points and claim them for Portugal by setting up on each a stone cross called Padrão. During his second voyage, Cao reached Cape Cross in January 1486, being the first European to visit this area. He is known to have erected two padrões, one in Montenegro and the second at Cape Cross. The current name of the place is derived from this padrão. Today, Cape Cross is a protected area owned by the government of Namibia under the name Cape Cross Seal Reserve. The reserve is the home of one of the largest colonies of Cape fur seals in the world. It is one of two main sites in Namibia, the other being Lüderitz, where seals are culled, partly for selling their hides and partly for protecting the fish stock. The economic impact of seals on the fish resources is controversial. While a government-initiated study finds that seal colonies consume more fish than the entire fishing industry can catch, Animal Protection Society Seal Alert South Africa estimated less than 0.3% losses to commercial fisheries.
Hi, my name is Nadine Downing. I'm the General Manager of Cape Cross Lodge, which is nestled in between the Atlantic and the Namib Desert, and it's about 123 km north of Swakopmund.
Why was the lodge built here in the middle of nowhere?
It was built about 20 years ago. In December we will celebrate our 20th birthday, and it comes from back in the 1800s when this original area was a concession area, and there was a seal factory here in the 1800s, and they also exported guano, fossil guano that was found in this area. And this concession has been handed over from one hand to the other and sold and resold up to present day, where we have a lodge situated here.
How big is the lodge? How many people can sleep? But you've also got a camping place, so lodge and camping place.
Yes, we've got one self-catering unit which can sleep 4, and ideal for a family of 4. And then we've got 21 campsites with hot and cold water facilities, ablution block, fireplace, fire area, little kitchenette area, and then we have 20 sea-facing rooms with ensuite bathrooms and their own private balcony.
With so many people in the desert, how do you supply, where do you get your water supply from?
We treat water like gold on site. We actually desalinate all our own potable water. We extract from the sea, and this is done by a natural process through the beach sand is the first filtering process, and then through reverse osmosis we produce our potable water on site.
I see you've also got solar panels.
That's correct. We try and be as self-sustainable as possible, and our mission at the lodge is also to be very environmental conscious. So all our cleaning products are biodegradable, and we are very aware of the environment and protecting the environment that we are situated in.
Why should people come visit you? What is the attraction that the lodge offers?
There's many attractions. Firstly, it's a very, very popular spot for people who fish. We've got some great fishing areas, angling areas south of us and north of us. So if you come down for a weekend or come up for a weekend, one day you can fish south of the lodge and the next day you can fish north of the lodge, depending on where the fish is biting. Also, we have some of the largest lichen fields right on our doorstep. So for the naturalists and the nature lovers, you'll find some palmato geckos in those lichen fields. You'll also find some desert chameleons and all the other smaller creatures. We are also surrounded by the brown hyena, or as some people know it, the strandwolf. And we have natural scavengers here and predators here, brown hyenas. And we're also situated next to one of the largest seal reserves, seal colonies of the Cape Fur seal.
You've also got a museum.
Yes, Day visitors, we open daily, so day visitors are more than welcome to pop in. You don't necessarily have to camp here or visit the lodge or stay in the lodge to visit the lodge. We have a la carte restaurant which serves meals all day, every day. Day visitors can come and visit the museum and learn about the history and basically all past chronicles that happened at Cape Cross. From 1486, when Diego Cao set foot on Namibian soil and planted his padrao, they could see a replica at the seal reserve adjacent to us. And then the museum houses some of artifacts which was found in the area. Some, like the torpedo bottle, is over 100 years old. And then we've also got a small little cottage outside which is dedicated to the whaling history of our coastline as well. And for example, why the Skeleton Coast is called the Skeleton Coast, which is a popular question among tourists. And they can read up and learn about the environment as well. Also, they can read up on the first railway line, which was built in Namibia. This was a narrow gauge railway line, which was 21 kilometers long. And the Damaraland Guano Company back in 1896 used it to transport the seal furs and the fossil guano to the bay at the seal reserve, and then that was exported overseas. What we try and do at the lodge is we try and also make visitors aware of the natural history within the area. We do have certain times of year where whales pass by. They'll either be traveling down south or moving up north on their migration pattern. Typically, you could see the southern right whale and the humpback whale. And we do have turtles. Sometimes things wash ashore. They die of natural causes, and what we try and do is we preserve this and we try and add this into our exhibition so people can learn about the natural habitat that these animals are found in, as well as their lifespan and their life cycle.
And the interesting decoration and paintings around here, I believe you are partly responsible for that.
Yes, I am indeed. I come from a family of Namibian artists, well-known Namibian artists, the Downing family. My father was a well-known artist. He passed away in 1988, and my mother took on with the studio and with the paintbrushes and carried on. And when I completed schooling, I kind of followed in my mom and dad's footsteps, and I absolutely have a passion for art and the environment. I'm more a wildlife artist, my mother's more a landscape artist, but I think together we try and depict Namibia in all its beauty.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now, in the SADC region, the president of Zambia, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, is scheduled to travel to the United States to attend the 76th United Nations General Assembly. However, interest groups in Zambia say he must forego this trip. Master Mike Sichula, in the land of bravery, the House of Stone, has more. Good morning, Master Sichula. Please tell us more.
Africa, good morning. Thank you very much. So basically what has happened is that President Hakainde Hichilema is set to undertake his first official international trip ever since taking office on the 24th of August 2021. But the challenge, the issue at hand is that people are questioning why is he taking this trip when in the country there are certain there are issues that need his attention. Why hasn't he gone through the country, for instance, to thank the people that voted for him? And why is he taking this trip on the background that he used to condemn his predecessor, President Edgar Lungu, when he undertook such trips? Then the other issue pertains the use of the presidential challenger that in the picture. President Hichilema, when he was in opposition, he condemned the purchase of this presidential challenger jet, and he said that if he won the August elections, he was going to sell it. But as it is now, He has not said anything about selling this presidential challenger, which he said was contributing to contributing to the high cost of running government. So a number of people are questioning him to say, let's see if he's going to fulfill some of the things that he said he was going to do while still in opposition, now that he's in government. So there are a whole lot of things that people are talking and are questioning him. He came on the scene, for instance, promising that he was going to provide free education from grade 1 up to university level. All those issues people are questioning and are beginning to judge him as he sits in office less than a month.
All right, easier said than done, as it seems. Prisoners have been given a rare opportunity to pursue studies in information communication technologies through a scholarship program. Could you tell us more about this?
Yeah, this is one of the Zambian government. What they did is that they have moved away from prison being a place where when you go, then you have to be punished and the like. We have now moved to what we are calling the correctional services, correction centers. So the idea is that if somebody is in prison, he or she who is interested in different skills can undertake these skills so that at the time when they come out from prison, they should come out with a skill to help themselves integrate into society. So one of the programs that has come through is the Information Communication University, which is funded by the Korean government, has come on board to provide 100 scholarship to students to inmates to study information telecommunication studies, and these are at the bachelor degree level. So 100 inmates interested are going to be enrolled in this program. Then the university has also installed electronic libraries in one of our biggest prisons, that's Koweko Maximum Correction Center. So a number of inmates are going to take part. Then this is also a place where, again, a prisoner who was in prison but now is pardoned, he established one of the biggest farming activities as well as poultry sector that employed people from outside the prison. So there's a whole lot of activities that are happening in that prison, and this coming on board of scholarship is another yet one of those milestones activities that are happening to inmates in Zambian prisons.
All right, Master Sichula, I realized I said the House of Stone instead of the real Africa. Zambia is the real Africa. Please excuse me. Now, the new sports minister has come under heavy criticism on social media after he was quoted saying football icon Kalusha Bwalya must have a role in the administration of football. Please tell us more.
You know, the background of this issue is that Kalusha Bwalya, the 1998 African Footballer of the Year, we don't know how he got involved in politics. He was supporting the Patriotic Front Party, the outgoing. So in the picture there, that's the new Minister of Sports, Mr. Evans Nkandu. And he gave an interview to one of the local newspapers, and he said that he saw if Karushawara, yes, he might have made mistakes, but that does not mean he doesn't have anything to offer to football. And he mentioned the Football Association of Zambia. And this has not gone well with a number of soccer fans who have asked him to say, okay, you as Minister of Sports, can we also ask your predecessor who was from the opposition from the now opposition political party to help you run the ministry? So this is a very big debate in as far as football administration is concerned. Why? Because they are saying Karushawari frustrated the current Minister of Association President, Mr. Andrew Kamanga. These two men do not see eye to eye, and it has created division amongst soccer fans as well as football administrators and many others. And the sad part is that the outgoing government, the PF administration, really did not give the current first president time to oversee football administration in Zambia. Then the minister later issued a statement clarifying to say he more or less like saying he was misquoted by the local media that he gave an interview to.
All right. Now, on a sad note, a Congolese woman on holiday in Zambia has died as she took a selfie at one of the recreation spots on the Kafue River. Could you please tell us about that?
Yeah, this is one of the sad things that have happened in the past week, where this Congolese lady had come to Zambia for a traditional, to attend a traditional event ahead of a marriage ceremony, or here we call it Chirangamulo, where people bring all sorts of food to celebrate what is a marriage of some sort. So after that, they went out to enjoy the tourism aspects of Zambia around the Kafue River, which is about 40 minutes drive from the. But sadly, as they were at that one of those places, she tried to took a selfie and on a cliff, and sadly she slipped off. And by the time rescue people could get to try and get her, they could not manage to retrieve her from the water, and that's how she died. She's actually 27 years old, and authorities have been trying to retrieve the body, which they did not manage on the day of the accident, and they're still trying to ensure that the body is located and she's put to rest in a dignified manner. It is a very sad situation to the Zambian tourism sector, because
Indeed.
a lot of people over weekends, they go to these places to just enjoy nature. And
It's a travel
I'm
town.
sure now people are saying they must put preventive measures as well as rescue should be on hand.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you very much, Mike, for bringing us the news from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning. I'm sure our viewers are going to enjoy this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is still Africa Good Morning, bringing you the news and current affairs from the SADC region and beyond. Next up, weather forecast. Mother Nature is speaking. She's been here 22,500 times longer than us. She doesn't need us, but we need her. This video has been created, written, and edited by Ella Meek, aged 10, after a series of lessons that were based on a video created by Conservation International. After work around what Mother Nature as a concept means to people and what our relationship with the natural world is, the focus shifted onto analysis of a video, Mother Nature. The culmination of this mini project was to create a video that increased awareness of our need to respect and protect our natural world. Have a look.
This is Mother Nature. She has been here for 4.5 billion years. 22,500 times more than us. She doesn't really need people, but people need her. Yes, our future depends on her. Her soil grows our food. Her streams are the source of the water we drink. Her ocean is where we get the fish to eat. And in return, we poison her and destroy her by chopping down her trees and wrecking her coral and overusing her soil. But she has been here from the beginning. Her forests, her flowing streams, her oceans, they can all take us or leave us. She has fed species greater than us, and she has starved species greater than us. So we'd better listen up. How we choose to live our lives, whether we listen to or ignore Mother Nature, doesn't really matter to her. But in every way, our actions will determine our fate, not hers. She is nature. She will go on. She is ready to evolve. Are we?
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to get into your economic news stories for the day. In our first story, Zambian president promises to cut deficit, review mining policies. Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema said on Friday his new government would implement policies to reduce the fiscal deficit, restore economic growth, and review mining policies. Rebuilding our economy is top on our agenda. We will implement policies to address the fiscal deficit while ensuring that confidence is restored in the markets, Hichilema said. Hichilema's market-friendly stance will attract new investment into Zambia's mining sector and help boost the country's copper production at a propitious time of near record high copper prices. Zambia as a whole hopes to increase its annual copper output to 2 million tons by 2026, new Finance Minister Situmbeko Musokotwane said last month. Hitting that target will require significant investment in Mopani and other mines across Zambia, as well as in exploration.
Ethiopian mega dam to start producing water next month. Ethiopia says a controversial mega dam it is building over the Blue Nile will start generating electricity in a month. The announcement by the country's water ministry came as two downstream countries, Egypt and Sudan, continues to raise concerns that the dam will impact their essential water supplies. The 5 billion project is aimed at providing power to the tens of millions of Ethiopians which could transform people's lives and the economy. Speaking to the BBC, Water Minister Selehi Bekele said that an initial 750 megawatts of electricity will be produced by the two of the dam's turbines. When it is finished, the dam is expected to generate 8 times that amount. The project has caused tension between Ethiopia and its neighbors, with Egypt and Sudan worried about droughts and water security. But at the time when Ethiopia is enmeshed in a costly civil war, this is a rare bit of good news for the many in the country.
DR Congo president seeks review of mining contracts with China. Felix Tshisekedi, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, has called for a review of mining contracts signed with China in 2008 by his predecessor, saying he wanted to get fairer deals. A statement after a cabinet meeting on Friday said Tshisekedi called for the technical and financial details of Sino-Congolese contracts at the next meeting. Former President Joseph Kabila, who held power from 2001 to 2019, negotiated a highly contentious minerals for infrastructure contract with Chinese in 2008, valued at $9 billion. To date, about $2.74 billion has been disbursed by the Chinese so far. According to data gathered by Johns Hopkins University's China-Africa Research Initiative, Chinese entities have extended 53 loans to the DRC between 2000 and 2018. Most of the lending was focused on the power, transport, and mining sectors.
Closing the gap of gender inequality in the SA labor market. A recent study by the National Business Initiative highlighted the persisting levels of gender inequality not only in South Africa but around the world. Women's Month has highlighted the role of women in society and once again reinforced awareness around disparities in gender-based pay that still persist today. A recent study by the National Business Initiative highlighted the persisting levels of gender inequality not only in South Africa but around the world. The paper further stated that the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic from both an economic and societal point of view was felt most by women. The recently published Q2 2021 quarterly labor force survey of South Africa supports this view, as the number of employed women fell by 10.4% between the Q1 of 2020 and Q2 of 2021. The equivalent figure for men was 7.5% decrease. In the report published by the National Business Initiative, there is a table which details the definition of gender pay gaps as well as the kind of information that are typically reported in each country. Although there is not any legislation that states that the two people must be paid exactly the same, it is important that the reasoning used for applying any wage differentiation is based on sound, defendable reasons rather than any kind of conscious or unconscious bias. Gender disparities are covered in equal pay for work of equal value legislation.
Now, in the last of our economic news stories, the rand is on the run. Global uncertainty has increased over the past 2 months, unsettled by COVID-19 mutations and new lockdown restrictions, which is likely to impact the rand and other emerging market currencies, said Nedbank. The frequent restrictions on economic activity in many parts of the world continue to aggravate supply shortages and transport bottlenecks, keeping prices of raw materials and intermediate goods elevated, the bank said in a research note this week. Given the government's stretched finances, spending is likely to remain relatively stagnant within the context of the revisions of the stronger first half. The South African economy advanced by 19.3% year-on-year in the second quarter after a downwardly revised 2.6% decline in the previous period, comfortably beating market expectations of 17.5%, Citadel pointed out. It was the strongest expansion on record, coming off a low base from last year and further assisted by the relaxation of lockdown restrictions amid the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. You know what comes up next? Economic indicators. welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now, the Shana say Chisingaperi Chino Shura, which means what does not end becomes too bothersome. And that's how I feel about Arsenal's current streak. But to talk to us about the sports news from the weekend and much more, Mr. Ari Hochad is here. Good morning, Ari. How are you?
Yes, very good morning, Ashwin. Yes, Arsenal won. That's good news for you. So that's but then your soccer team win, and then your racing driver crashes out, and so that's life, isn't it? Crazy weekend. Absolutely. Let's start with some cricket news, and it's still at the moment. There's in Botswana the qualifying for the ladies, the Southern African qualifying for the ladies. The Women's T20 World Cup in South Africa 2023 that's taking place in Gaborone in Botswana. And some of the results, that's a Namibian team that did well. They beat Nigeria over the weekend by 59 runs. And then Zimbabwe also with a good win against the host Botswana by 82 runs. And that tournament continues with the semi-finals being played on Friday. And also the South African women's team, they're doing well against the West Indies. They beat them in the second game it's an ODI 50-over game by 9 wickets and won the first one by 8 wickets. And then there's also some men's cricket going on at the moment. It is the Proteas that won their second T20 game against Sri Lanka, and that was by 9 wickets. A great win for South Africa there. They lead the series 2-0, and the third game will be played tomorrow. And also today, there's another game for Zimbabwe. They're playing in Ireland, in Belfast. They're playing against Ireland, the hosts. On to some football news. We talked about Arsenal earlier. Arsenal beat Norwich City. That was one of the big results from the weekend. Good win for Arsenal after losing the first 3 games. And the 4 big names in the English Premier League are flexing their muscles quite early. That is Manchester United, Chelsea and Liverpool. They're leading after 4 games with 10 league points. And Manchester City also on 9 league points. Manchester City with a great away win against Leicester City, 1-0. Ronaldo made a brilliant comeback, a fairy tale comeback for Manchester United. They beat Newcastle by 4-1, and Ronaldo scored 2 of those goals. And then other results quickly: Crystal Palace beat Tottenham Hotspur by 3-0. And then from last night, one of the big games, Liverpool, a very good away win against Leeds United by 3-0. On to some tennis news. It was the US Open that finished last night, or the weekend. It was the men's final last night, and it was Daniil Medvedev of Russia that beat Novak Djokovic, the early favorite, by 3 straight sets, 6-4, 6-4, and the third set also 6-4. And that is Novak Djokovic. He had lots to play for. Unfortunately, I think the pressure got to him. He was playing for a season Grand Slam. That means he was then going to be, if he won last night, the holder of all 4 of the majors. That last happened 52 years ago with Rod Laver. But unfortunately, Djokovic lost, and he also couldn't add to his 20 major wins. Then quickly, also in the ladies section, it was Emma Raducanu from Britain, from the United Kingdom, that won the singles final. She's just 18 years old. Brilliant performance. There she is on the right. The winner she beat Leila Fernandez, also a very young player, 19 years old from Canada. And it was the first win for a British tennis player in a major since Virginia Wade 44 years ago. On to some Formula One racing news. We talked about racing drivers crashing out. And the big news of the Italian Grand Prix was, firstly, let's go to the winner. That was Daniel Ricciardo of Australia, and that was a bit of a surprise win. McLaren that took 1 and 2. Daniel Ricciardo of Australia won in his McLaren. Lando Norris, his teammate, second, and that was also made a little bit easier because of a crash between the 2 leaders, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. There's the 2 riders, Max Verstappen on the right and Lewis Hamilton on the left, and the stewards afterwards indicated, or they ruled, that it was Max Verstappen that was wrong in that incident. It was his mistake, and he will have to take 3 penalty places, starting penalty places in the next Russian Grand Prix coming up next. So unfortunately for those 2 drivers that crashed out in one of the chicanes. Then lastly, just to finish with some rugby news, it was the Springboks that played their first rugby championship game in Australia. and it was heartbreak for them in the last minutes of the game. It was Quade Cooper, the legendary Quade Cooper of Australia, that slotted over a penalty goal from way out from 35 meters out to beat the Springboks by 28 points to 26. And it was also the Springboks that missed quite a lot of kicks in the game. But they play again this coming weekend against Australia. The All Blacks also play again against Argentina. They beat Argentina by 39 points to 0. And then also locally meaning South Africa, Southern African, the prestigious Currie Cup final was played in Pretoria. That's the winning team, the Bulls. They've got lots of momentum. They've won lots of trophies the last 2 years. They beat the Sharks in the final by 44 points to 10 at Loftus Versfeld to retain the Currie Cup. So well done to the Bulls in Pretoria. So that is all the sporting news we have for this Monday. Hope the Monday is not too blue. It's a blue Monday in Pretoria for a good reason. And we talk again on Friday. Then we preview the next, all the weekend's sport. All the best. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us the sports news. After the break, your headlines. Africa Good Morning has been streaming live from 7 a.m. Now, if you perhaps missed our top stories at the top of the hour, or if you need a recap, worry not, here are some of the headlines. African Union suspends Guinea after military coup. Regional envoys meet Guinea junta, ousted president after coup. U.S. urges immediate talks over Ethiopia conflict as reported abuse grows. Send vaccines to Africa and ditch unproven third shot, AU says. Zambian president promises to cut deficit, review mining policies. The Africa qualifying games for 2023 T20 Women's World Cup underway in Gaborone, Botswana. Those have been our stories.
We thank you very much for joining us on the Monday edition of Africa Good Morning. We welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can always email them to us. Our email is agm_2centsworth@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, we are on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Africa Good Morning. We also have a website. It's called One Up 2. And on that note, please wear your mask. Avoid unnecessary public gatherings, and remember that we are still in an ongoing pandemic. It's all our love, all our light.
Until tomorrow, Seraj Lakanaka.